One of the things that I say all the time is if you don't know your options, you don't have any. So I would love to hear from you. After you took your birth class, did you feel like you knew your options?
Absolutely, 100%. I had so many options dialed down to a T that I never knew I had the option for before.
I feel a lot more empowered. I feel like very well educated on it. I have everything written down. I have everything kind of just in my body and my mind and my heart. And I feel like together, my husband and I can do this and make the right decisions and go in without fear and be able to listen to people and their advices, but also know what we're talking about and what they're talking about in order to like make the best decisions and feel really good about whatever happens.
So much more than I did the first time around, and I was definitely able to advocate for myself more so with the healthcare providers. I just had so much more knowledge this time going in, knowing what I could and couldn't do and what my body was more capable of as well.
The material from the classes supported the Fearless Birth experience. It said a lot of the same things. It expanded on them appropriately. So it gave you some extra information, cognitive muscle memory, the repetition, the fact that it was said the same way and it was said with the same phraseology so that when those things came up during labor, everybody says it, but you can hear it in your head. Like you can hear the phrases, you can hear the words, you can hear the instructions because everything was said explicitly and repeatedly so that you can learn it. So yeah, I definitely clearly knew my options.
Absolutely, because before I had no clue. I would have just said yes to whatever the provider wanted. After taking the classes, I was able to come up with a birth plan of what I wanted. Now, things didn't exactly go the way that I had put in the plan, but I knew exactly what to do when those moments arise because of that.
Yeah, even now we're like talking about it and deciding what we should do next. And I not only did I know my options, I had the language really explain why I wanted what I wanted, and I had the knowledge to know if I was being like BS'd or not.
There were things that we didn't know about with our first baby that now we know, and it changed our birth with our second child. So I'm excited to kind of see how labor and all of that goes with our third child, because we feel like we understand it a lot more and understand like what our options are a lot more.
Having the coaching course there and the VBAC lab and the community to kind of go off of like really helped to empower us to advocate and to push back where we needed to push back. So we weren't just part of their, get in line, single file to the C-section, the operating room. It really allowed us to kind of educated decisions to help meet our goals.
Absolutely. I felt like I had a lot of knowledge in my options. I knew what decisions that I was going to have to make in the moment. I knew what those decisions would mean for me and what they would mean for my baby. So I felt very empowered and knowledgeable in what I was going to be going through and what I had to decide upon.
I felt like I could advocate for myself more easily and educated. That helped my birth go very smoothly, having all of that.
This was my third child, but it has been 9 years. And I had natural childbirth for my first two. I was planning to do this one too, but for some reason I was feeling very nervous, even though the last two were great and had no issues. So yeah, going into the course, I guess I was just feeling lots of nerves and anxiety, and I was educated, obviously, because I'd been through that. So I needed just some extra information to help kind of ease my mind, especially because I'm AMA. So that was another thing that I was more nervous about because the doctors.
Oh, 100,000%.
I think like in the Hangouts, I would maybe ask a lot of times, like, oh, I'm thinking of asking my doctor this, or my doctor said X, Y, and Z when I would go over and tell him something that I learned in the course. I had talked to him about using the shower, using hydrotherapy for my pain. And he had told me like, no, like you can't because you're VBAC and I have to monitor you. And then when I spoke to you, you were like, ask him again because you should be able to get in the shower and use hydrotherapy if you want for, certain amounts of time. And I wouldn't have thought to ask him that. And I went back and asked him and he was like, yeah, sure. Then it was like, oh, no problem. So it was really nice.
Yes, most definitely. Because since I had already 3 previous C-sections, and just knowing what my options were, the risks and the benefits, and just choosing, even though I didn't have a VBAC, knowing that I could still choose, but that it was safer for me to choose another C-section
it was definitely very helpful.
I honestly had a pretty good idea of some of my birth options kind of beforehand, just because of where I have been with my knowledge base before my background. But I think it really helped me be able to communicate with my partner what options I would be presented with. And if I was at a point where I was in labor and not able to effectively communicate what my preferences were, that he would be able to step in. Yes, this is what I wanted or didn't want.
I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but I loved being prepared for any of them, whether naturally just happened or epidural or even like C-section, and even having the knowledge for all of the ways it could go, because birth can be so unexpected. It was so good to have the information for all of the things that were kind of before me.